Palestinian workers crossing into Israel don't find it easy. Long lines, longer waits, and invasive security checks. But women crossing the border say they are also subjected to sexual harassment. Palestinian women say that while waiting for hours in the crossing lines, male Palestinian workers are using the opportunity and a captive audience to sexually harass, grope, and even sexually assault their victims. The Ma'an organization that brings Palestinians over the border says that workers coming into Israel are entitled to the very same protections and dignity that Israeli workers are. But there are challenges. The harassment is happening on the Palestinian side of the border and outside of Israeli jurisdiction. So what can be done to stop us? In studio with us now is Assaf Adiv, the CEO of Ma'an, to explain just what to do. Thank you for joining us, Assaf. Can you break down the full extent of the problem for us?
Well, first of all, the complaint of women workers who cross the checkpoint in south of Tulkarem, Sha'ar Ephraim checkpoint, came to our knowledge by workers who are activists with us, with Ma'an Workers Association, the organization that defends workers in general in Israel and also Palestinian workers. We approached last Tuesday the authority on checkpoints, and we said to them, this is in your jurisdiction, and you should put very clear signs there that in the entrance, which is specialized for women, only women should go in. There are 3 other entrances into the checkpoint for men and 1 separate for women. However, there is no special sign. We also asked for people like guards to put their own cameras. And the complaint came, as to our knowledge, just 10 days ago, but we know that it takes, it is already happening for quite a time. We don't know how much time. We know that the great majority of men workers who cross the checkpoint are not involved in this kind of improper behavior, but there are some who behave like this. So this is the general background to this situation. We have a very important and good news from this morning.
So I did hear about the good news from this morning. I believe a guard is now in place to try to keep the line separated.
In reality is that yesterday we got an official response from the authority of the checkpoints saying that the other side of the checkpoint is not under the jurisdiction of the Israeli checkpoint authority. We think that it is wrong. It is not right. The authority that builds and controls completely the checkpoint is the Israeli checkpoint authority, and they should take care of it. They said it's not their jurisdiction. They even said that they approached the Tulkarem area governor of the PA, and they refused to deal with this. But fortunately, and this is very important, this morning we got a picture of 2 guards who are working inside the checkpoint, who were sent by the checkpoint authority to stand there and say to the men, don't enter here, you're not allowed to enter here, those who will enter here will be subjected maybe to their permits be withdrawn. So of course people don't want their permits to be withdrawn, and nobody entered, and this is a good thing. We don't know if we continue tomorrow, but this is something that is very simple to solve, very important. The dignity of workers and women especially is very important. And we are happy to say that some of the workers that we are working this were aware and conscious of this difficult situation of women, stood with the women, worked with them, and this is a good sign of what can be done.
Do we have any idea of how long this really has been going on for? Because you said that it has been going on for a while, but if it's been going on for a while, why are we just hearing about it now? Why has there been no pressure in the past to intervene and prevent sexual harassment and assault at these checkpoints?
I don't have any information of how long, but I can tell you 2 things. One, the minute that we knew about it, we acted immediately, and it happened to be that our activity and our intervention was effective. Secondly, I can tell you that the situation in general of workers, women and men, most of the workers who enter Israel are 200,000 Palestinians who enter Israel to work. The huge amount of people, most of them are men, they are subjected to many different types of exploitation, of harassment and repression. One of the most important and difficult and really outrageous situation is the fact that people need to buy their permits in an illegal market of mediators for 2,500 shekels every month. And this is something that's gone on for years. There's a lot of discussion about it, but until now, there's nothing is being done. And as happened with the harassment, as a sexual harassment of these women, it is only when we entered and we said to the authority, do something about it, that they did. And they could do. And they can do also something about the permits trade.
And this does actually bring up a very interesting question, because one of the things that came up is the Israeli authorities saying this is not our jurisdiction. And certainly when it comes down to dealing with all the Palestinian Authority officials on the other side, there are going to be butting heads about who's in control in that territory. It sounds like there's a lot of illegal activity that surrounds the whole industry around the checkpoint that's cropping up. How much reach does Israel really have to enforce Israeli labor standards and dignity if the Palestinian Authority is not going to play ball with them on this?
The workers who go into Israel to work are working inside Israel. According to the law, the international labor conventions, Israeli law, they are entitled to get the proper treatment, salaries, social conditions, etc., as Israeli workers. This is the law. And this is on the Israeli employers and the Israeli authorities to intervene. The authority that gives permits to employers in Israel to employ Palestinians is an Israeli authority under the payment authority, under the immigration authority of the Ministry of Interior. So they are the ones who know if they gave 200 permits to a company that employs 3 workers, it means that 97 permits have been sold in the black market. They can know about it. They can check on it. The tax authority should check on it. And we think we as Ma'an proposed to, and we talked to the military, we talked to the Knesset, we talked to people in the payment authority, that we think that workers should get a green card. It means let workers get the permit in their hands and not conditions on the employers.
It's an interesting situation, particularly because we talk about all this happening once they're on the Israeli side of the border, but there are so many questions about what happens to protect them before they cross the border. That's going to be for a future discussion because we're out of time on that one. Thank you for joining us, Assaf.